Hi everyone, I miss you all so much and I'm so excited to get to read to you today. I'll be reading a book that's about art, so I'm excited about that. And I know a lot of you have been asking if you'd be able to see the baby, so she is here with me. She'll be hanging out beside me. There's Ramira. Okay, and of course we have Ryder here too. All right, so this book, let me get my camera set up. There we go. So this book, I thought was really interesting because it just came out in September of last year, September 2019. And I thought that was interesting because Dr. Seuss isn't living today. So how could he have a book come out in September? But apparently they made this book based off of notes he had written and while he was planning this book. So he meant for this to be a book way back, I think it was in the 50s, but it never got published or written. So so they took his notes and made this book. So it is called The Horse Museum by Dr. Seuss. This is what art is about. Art is when an artist looks at something, like a horse for instance, and they see something in that horse that excites them. So they do something about it. They tell you about it in any one of a number of ways. Artists have been excited by horses for as long as there have been artists. But what an artist tells us about horses and how they tell us is different for every artist. What an artist sees in a horse depends on many different things. Their background, likes, and dislikes, you name it. So come with me. And you guys know we talk about all the time how artists see things differently in many different ways. Let's look at how different artists have seen horses. Maybe we can find some new ways of looking at them ourselves. Look it over, think it over, talk it over. So there's a whole bunch of different horses, a bunch of different artworks, I should say. When most people look at me, they just see me like this. But when an artist looks at me, they see a million other things. Can you? How could you see a horse differently? Or how would you want to see a horse? Some artists look at a horse and see its outlines. To other artists, like this Chinese sculptor, a horse is not an outline at all. A horse is bulk, a solid form. This is a very old sculpture right here. A Japanese artist looked at a horse. What he saw was beautiful lines from head to tail. Look at those beautiful lines. Much different from the other lines we saw. Some artists look at a horse and find color. I love the color in these paintings. These are bright reds and oranges, warm colors. This artist used cool colors. Other artists are interested in shape. Look at those shapes. So there's a bunch of repeated shapes. Look at those shapes. That's pretty abstract. Okay. This artist looked at a horse and saw strength. That horse looks very strong. These artists looked and they saw speed. These horses are all running. So these ones. These two paintings are very different, but they both show speed. A Spaniard named Velázquez painted horses by the dozens. He saw them as something for kings and princes to sit on while he painted them. Velázquez worked for the kings and princes. He never got any money from the horses. There's Velázquez's painting. This painting is by a Frenchman named Messonnier. Horses, to him, were something necessary to carry generals into battle. He loved to paint generals going into battle. To him, the horse was a jeep in the days before the jeep was invented. Here's his painting. On the rock walls of a cave in France nearly 22,000 years ago, someone painted this horse by the light of a fire. What did the cave artist see in a horse? We don't know. It's a mystery. What do you think? That's this one over here. So that's a cave painting. 2,000 years ago in Greece, artists looked at horses and imagined them with wings. Pegasus was an immortal flying horse in Greek mythology. Greek artists painted horses with wings as symbols for ideas, like immortality, that are hard to show in a picture. So there's the Pegasus. It's also very old. Okay, 500 years ago in Persia, people thought a horse was for having fun on. And that's what the Persian artists saw when they looked at horses. So here they're playing a game on the horses. 500 years ago in Italy, the artist Raphael looked at a horse. He thought that a horse was for fighting dragons on. There's a man fighting a dragon. Of course, some artists looked at horses and wanted to paint them just as they appeared in the natural world, doing things that horses really do. Okay. So we call this kind of art realistic. Other artists looked at horses and tried to capture them in a moment of time. We call this style of art Impressionism. Impressionist art often has a soft, slightly out-of-focus appearance. You can see how it's a little bit blurry. Some of us looked at this artist, Dr Seuss, in class. And he also did pointillism with all the little dots. Then we come to what people call modern art. Some people call this crazy stuff. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. But these are paintings, drawings, and sculptures that show what certain artists imagined when they looked at a horse. So please look at them very carefully. There are lots of ways of looking at things. Maybe these pictures have something to tell you. So think about, what could this sculpture be telling you? It's definitely fun and interesting. Look at these paintings. Here's a horse sculpture up there. Surrealism is a way of looking at things, including horses, that draws on, in part, an artist's dreams. Dreams can be very strange, and so can surrealist art. So here's 3 surrealist paintings. Another surrealist artist that a lot of us have looked at was Salvador Dali, if that sounds familiar. Some of you learned about him. Expressionism is an art style that uses exaggerated colors and brushstrokes to show the emotion an artist wants us to feel when we look at something. What do you feel when you look at this? So there's two. Look at the colors in these. They're very bright. So think about, what would you feel? The horse is blue. What does it mean to feel blue? Maybe he's sad. Okay. Cubism is a way of looking at things from different angles all at the same time. Cubists don't want to copy things the way they normally look. A famous artist named Picasso liked horses. He liked bulls too. He drew a lot of them. So there's Picasso's two paintings. There's a bull and a horse, another horse up here. Abstract art can have a subject, but it doesn't need one. It uses color and shape to create a visual experience. These abstract images do have subjects, horses and riders, of course. That's the side. This artist used just a few lines and splotches of color in this woodcut. But when you look at it, you can see a galloping horse and rider, right? And this artist, some of us looked at also, Wassily Kandinsky. He also liked to paint to music. Okay. What do you see when you look at branches and driftwood? The artist who made this sculpture saw a horse. I think that looks really cool. It was made all of driftwood. And that artist is Deborah Butterfield. This abstract drawing in space shows what looks like a big, strong horse, but you wouldn't want to sit on its back. All it is made out of is thin steel wire. Ouch. And that's Alexander Calder made this wire horse. It's just a wire outline. This is all hollow. An American painter named Jackson Pollock found a hobby horse head and glued it onto a canvas before doing this abstract drip painting. Pollock dripped, splattered, and flung paint as a way to insert himself into his paintings. Maybe this is Pollock on a horse. So right there is the hobby horse head. That's all of his painting around it. And I know a lot of you learned about Jackson Pollock too. He liked to get into his paintings. So what do you think? Is this stuff crazy, or is it crazy good? Looking at art and thinking about it is fun. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Museums are good places to find art. You can find art in other places too. One such place to look is in books. The horses shown below and to the right are from books illustrated by a man who never studied drawing. His name was Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss didn't ride horses, but he looked at them carefully and saw something in them. Can you guess what that something was? So look at this. See if that horse looks familiar to you. And this one over here. Okay. So look at that horse once again. A horse is many, many, many things, all depending on what you see. All right, so that is Dr. Seuss's book, Horse Museum. I'm so happy I got to read it to you. So that's all I have today. It looks like my book did not put Ramira to sleep, so I'll get her out and to say bye. And maybe if I read another book, she'll go to sleep. Bye. Thank you for listening.